Hello, and welcome to Talk Radio. My name is David Hayes. I am with Dr. Michael Ryce, and this is the MindShifters Radio Talk Show. We began back in January 31st, 2011, with Carol Guy, who does Fifth Dimensional Living on Mondays at 2. And thank you, Carol, for getting us on this program and this path. It's been really fabulous. My name is David Hayes, and I am sitting in for Dr. Michael Ryce while Jeannie and him have a little bit of downtime this week. If you would like to participate in the chat room or to get onto the show, you can go to the website of www.whyagain.com/MindShiftersRadio. Or you can call the number 646-200-4169. That's 646-200-4169. And we'll take your call. And I don't know, I'm going to check in with Amy. I was just chatting with her for a few minutes ago. If there's anything special that has come up in the chat room, any questions about today. And what we're going to be talking about is forgiveness. It's always about forgiveness, and forgiveness, unlike the traditional sense of what most people have, from the Greek understanding is, I'll be bigger than you. I'll let you off the hook for what you did to me. So there's a different way of looking at that. That's what we're here to support people in doing, is to doing their forgiveness work. So just checking in with Amy. Do we have anyone else on the line, Amy, or any questions, anything in the chat room as of right now?
No one on the phone. Patrick's in the chat. A few other people are in the chat also, but no other callers yet.
Okay. So I want to open it up to folks to take a risk and to challenge, to push outside of your, quote, comfort zone. It's really more of a familiar zone than it is so comfortable. And risk asking a question about what it is that we do here. There's a reason why you tapped in today and that you're tuning in. And so what is it that you would like to talk about? What is it that you want to venture out and to look into to see what this work is about? How can we support you? One of our purposes for this radio program is it's called the MindShifters, because we want to open the space for people to delve into their unconscious thoughts and beliefs that they have, bring them to the surface to a conscious level, and there's the opportunity in order to make the change and the shift. I was talking with Amy a few minutes ago about how things are going for her today around her neighbors. And for those of you who weren't on yesterday, Amy was courageous enough to bring up a situation that she had going on in her life, and what would be some other ways in order to make some shifts. And she let me know that, wow, things have changed just a little bit. Amy, do you have any comments about that, about your actions and what you created from that?
Yeah, well, it was just looking at it, really totally looking at it from a different place, because I was just looking at it from the place that, they're bothering me, I don't like this noise. And then when you really, really get down to it, they're not doing it on purpose. They don't know. And I just really looked at it from a different place, and I can still hear it, but like I think you were saying, it doesn't bother me as much. And I'm really surprised at myself, because normally it really bothers me, but I was noticing today even that the creaking and the, hearing their feet upstairs, it doesn't bother me like it did a little bit ago.
Yeah, well, good for you, Amy. It's so amazing that once that and this is kind of the ways that it is, that when we've got the filters and it's triggered and it's open to some hostility or fear, disappointment, sadness, irritation, whatever that it is, when we're willing to let go of that feeling and that thought around it, then we're able to see it differently. Remember, that's what Michael talks about, that we've got this 9 bits of information that comes into our consciousness, and there's 20 trillion bits of information that's going on out there. As soon as you opened up to seeing it differently, you got to see it differently. You know, and it's interesting that you're talking about that you hear it now, and it's just a noise. It's just something that's there, and there might be another worksheet or two to do around that. And if not, fine. But you know, I'm reminded of, it's interesting of what it is that we can do as a human when something's going on in our life that for someone else it would just be something else that's going on. When you're talking about you're hearing the things, you know, as a parent, or take it as a mother, when she has a child that's asleep, a newborn baby that's asleep, there can be planes and trains and automobiles and noises going on, and the mother can be sleeping soundly. All of a sudden, though, that child, a little cry, and this is also not just for the mothers, for fathers as well, boom, they're wide awake, alert to whatever it is that's going on. I have a new grandson, and my son was telling me of how, you know, one of those things about while he's sleeping through the night and so forth, that him and his wife, they always are in tune. They actually wake up before the child may even start to cry, that they're that in tune with it. So when we look at it and we program in what it is that we want to see, that's what it is that we get to see. So congratulations on seeing it differently. Anyone else out there with a question or comment, you can go to the chat room, or you can call us in at 646-200-4169. That's 646-200-4169. And any questions or comments, thoughts about anything. Anyone there, Amy?
No, but I do believe that Terry might be on the line here. Yes.
Good.
Terry, is that you?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good.
Hi, Terry. Glad you're with us. Hey, you had a really, we talked a few minutes ago, and you were sharing with me some of the things that's been happening for you since you're visiting with your children and family dynamics and different things. Anything you want to share about what's happening over the last couple of days?
Well, you know, one of the things that I am very aware of is that there's a tendency for my mind to present evidence that I'm not really doing so well, or that you know, things really aren't improving that much. You know, and the stuff comes up, and so it's a challenge, and for myself to continue, hold the space, and keep doing the work anyway. Now, the challenge, when I say it's a challenge, it's a challenge on a scale of 1 to 10. It's like a 1.5. When 2 years ago it was like a 9.8. You know, so the consistent daily repetition of doing the worksheets and checking in, building the brain cells, playing the building the brain cells game, where I'm making agreements, you know, to connect with another person so that I have some accountability there, and I know that I have set up a partner that's going to support me in that accountability, and chipping away at it. And what I get to see over a period of time is that even though when the stuff comes up, and like as Michael would say, the chips are down, and the what's the other part of that?
Stress. Stress is up,
and the chips are down, then that's when you really get to see what you got going on there, as far as how much progress you made, where you're at, and that type of thing. So as opposed to taking days and or hours, to move through something, I'm able to move through it within, minutes or at the most an hour or two to move through that next layer of resistance and confusion and all that the negative hostilities and fears that come up. So that's one of the things that I've been focusing on, and that's something that I've shared with you over the last few days.
Yeah, it is interesting of doing this, and I've heard a lot of people make comments around just what you were saying, Terry, and Michael is the one that guided me to understand that just because something is occurring again doesn't mean that I haven't done work towards it. Things that, kind of like what Amy was talking about, she still hears the squeaks and a little bit of the noise upstairs, although she sees it a little differently. And I was inviting her to take a look at, well, maybe there's something else that needs to let go of, and that is the whole key. This is about handling and dealing with what is presently that's going on. That is not about changing anybody or changing anything. It is all of a sudden that we see it differently. We've got the 9-bit mind, and there's 20 trillion bits of information. There are things that are going on that, from my perception, from my realities that I have in my mind, then this is what it is. As soon as I'm willing to forgive, to let go of that, and that is what the Aramaic language of the translation of the Aramaic language is to let go of, to just let go of the way that it is. And that takes work. That takes a real challenge to do the work, and it does come through commitment. It does come through making agreements that we're going to do our work daily. When we do that within the values, it certainly shows up all the time. And I was thinking of that, of the story about the monkey mind, on our own and within my mind can't change itself. And a lot of people I've heard saying, I'm changing. I want to change my mind. I want to change my mind. And we can't change our mind. Our mind is, what we can do is to learn how to use it in its proper way. We can change the way that we see it. The way that it is the way that it is. The way that I change anything is to look at it differently, to change, to choose another way of seeing it. This whole thing about changing things, I think we live in a culture where changing things has become one of the many ways that people take their life on. If I can just change this, if I change the way that I am, if I change this, if I change that. And often it's really just about doing it differently. It's not about, because once we do it differently, we see it differently. It's not like I changed anything out there. I only changed the realities that I hold in my mind of that. That's the only thing. And the mind can't change itself. We have to come from that higher consciousness, that our true essence of who it is that we are, our highest intelligence. And it sounds like, Terry, that's what I hear you doing and what Amy's doing, and I know Patrick and Tim and all the people that are using the tools, we're really making changes. We're changing the reality that we hold. And what's the reality is the output of my mind. How do I do that? And that's through forgiveness. That's through the reality management tool that Michael has created. And if anyone's interested in changing the realities that they have in their mind, then go to www.whyagain.com, download the worksheets, make a commitment. And as Terry was talking about, make a commitment with someone that you're going to do minimum of one worksheet. I invite you to do that. For anyone that's listening out there today, if you'll make this agreement to do one worksheet today, just one, minimum of one. You can do more than that. Make an agreement to do one worksheet today. And then check in tomorrow with us and let us know what it is that you now see differently. I promise you that if you do even one, then you've moved in that direction. And you know what the mind wants to do is to solve and to change everything all at one little flip of the switch. It's not that way. Michael talks about when they asked Yeshua, so how many of these forgiveness sheets do I have to do? And it was 77 times 70, which meant an infinite number of times. The 7 was the number of completion, and 0 was the number of completion, and 70 was infinity. It was like however many that it's going to take. So I invite folks to do that, to go to the website, to download the worksheets, to pick up any of them. And I'm wondering if some of the callers that called in earlier this week, if they did make the agreement, and did they keep their agreement about doing that? And if you have, then I promise you, you'll notice that there was a change. If you didn't, just take a look and notice that nothing has shifted out there, and the way that you're seeing it is still the same. So,
David,
anyways, if anyone has any questions or comments, probably go ahead.
There's a question from Patrick in the chat room, and he says, can you speak more about the options available to doing this process, sometimes called all of the above?
Oh, okay. Yeah, what Patrick is referring to is that in our intensives here at Heartland, which we do those in 9-day modules for anyone that's interested in coming and doing some really intense work, where you can really grasp this on an experiential level. And by doing that, well, then you automatically have it, you know, because so, and what he's referring to, and I think asking about is, during the intensives, there will be people that will always ask Michael, so what do I do in this situation? Kind of like when people call in or ask a question from the chat room, what do I do about my brother-in-law? What do I do about my mom? What do I do about my children? And Michael invariably says all of the above, referring to all of the tools that have been created, all of the work all of the guidance that's been offered there, then you have to do all of that. It's not a question of doing one thing or this is the one answer. That's kind of like what the mind wants to do. The mind wants to say, well, what is it that I do next? But that's because it doesn't know. It's looking. And it will start making things. So it's about using all of the tools, Patrick. When Carol and I were on the other day, we were talking about the breath work. I think to understand and to use the breath and understand how the breath is so key to this energy system that just breathing 5 minutes each day in the morning and in the evening, so that's 10 minutes, to do that each day will shift things. Now, will it let you let go of a lot of things? Yes. And if you do that in conjunction with doing worksheets, if you do that in conjunction with doing my commitment in the mirror, if you do that in conjunction with other things, well, then it will move along more rapidly. So that's what all of the above is about, is about using all of the tools. And you'll get to know which tool works best for you in which situation. They're, kind of like Terry's a construction man, and it's really amazing to watch him do work where all of a sudden he knows exactly what tool is the best tool for which particular job. Now, he didn't know that when he first began. He, through trial and error, which is imperative that we do that, then he gets to know, oh, this is the best one for work. This is what's best for this particular time. We don't know which one it is. I don't know which one it is that's best. Micah doesn't know what's best for anyone. You do, and the only way to know that is for you to experiment with and figure out what works for you. Kind of like what you were doing, Amy, with, Just
right.
have that little bit of insight and to use the tool in order to shift and change, to change something that sounds like it was one of your, an opportunity for you to heal something within you. So.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely, and it's big. This is big for me because it was a issue that, you know, I kept having again and again. And, you know, I downloaded Michael's book and everything. I'm halfway through the book. It's amazing, and this just helped so much just talking with you yesterday about my issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what it takes, Amy, and that's what it takes. And everyone that's on the call today, from the people that are just listening in and the people that are participating in a conversation back and forth, my guess is what we talked about yesterday, Amy, is that there was some resistance coming from yourself. When I say resistance, it's like, and we want to, I'll hold on to this. Maybe he'll say the right thing and then I'll get it. But we don't learn anything from words. We can't have an experience from words. The words only resonate some content that's in our brain, some firing off and some beliefs that we have, and through us doing the work itself, through the experience of that is when we get to make the change. It's kind of like riding a bicycle. If there's anyone out there that can tell me how to ride a bicycle, I would appreciate it if you would call in and tell me how to ride one. And what I'd ask for you to do is to describe for me what it is that I have to do, what muscles and so forth, and how I need to coordinate everything. And the truth of it is there's no one that can really tell us how to ride a bicycle. We can only get on the bicycle and through our own efforts learn how to ride it. Once we've learned how to ride it, it doesn't matter whether we use that ride it 20 years from now. We can bring a bike up. We know how to do it. We don't think about it or anything. We just get on it and we ride it. So it is with these tools, and it is about implementing them into our life. We can talk about it, and that's what the mind wants to do. It wants to spend a lot of time talking about it. One of my teachers said, you know, David, it's easier to do it than it is to think about it. Because what he knew was referring to is that the thinking is just the program, just keep playing it over and over and over and changing one little word or two around in it to make it sound good. And the real key to it is just putting it into practice. So it is what we do. And if you have a question or comment or thought around any of that, you can call 646-200-4169. My purpose and support is for me to use some words that may resonate something that's in you. Could be sadness, disappointment, anger, disagreement, anything, so that then we have an opportunity to have a conversation around it to see if we want to make a shift. So if you'd like to go to the chat room or the phone number at 646-200-4169, we'll take a look at it. And anyone out there that has a comment on what we've talked about so far?
No
comment. Amy, Terry, Patrick?
No, nothing on the switchboard, nothing in the chat room.
Okay. Is Dr. Tim out there today?
I believe it looks like Tim is in the chat room, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, his number is 815 area code in case that he had something he would like to add to that. Just to let you know.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, one of the thoughts that I had about doing this work is about our purpose here is to wake people up. Wake people up to acknowledge and recognize that they're in charge of their life. And most of the times, if we were to walk out on the street and we were to ask 100 people, who's in charge of your life? Out of 100 people, 99 of them are going to say, well, I'm in charge of my life. I know that I'm in charge of my life. And they acknowledge it when things are going pretty well. It's just when things aren't going so well that they get like, why is this happening to me again? I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to create this. And the truth of it is that at an unconscious level and on the sleep level, that is what we do. So our purpose here is to wake people up. And when people refer to waking up, it's like I use an analogy. Have you ever, anyone out there ever gone to bed reading, crawl up in bed, get the light just right, pull the blankets up, and start to read a good book? And then the next thing you know, they're asleep. When is it that you know that you went to sleep? So I'm asking that question. When do you know that you went to sleep? The only time that you know that you went to sleep is when you wake up. Until you wake up to who it is that your true essence is, of who it is that you are, then you you will only operate out of being asleep. So
David, Tim's on now.
Yes.
Tim, you there?
Yes.
I am here.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Tim.
Hello, David. Are you awake?
Am I awake?
Yes.
Doing my best at it at each moment, It is about staying conscious and staying conscious of the truth. That's really what it's about. So I am awake at this particular moment. How are things for you today?
Things are beautiful today, as usual. I was prompted to call in because they were asking about tools and all of the above, and one of my favorite happens to be the MindShifter, and that's what we did Tuesday night in our group. Instead of doing a reality management worksheet, we all took a breath and asked for guidance and then just chose numbers, and we each picked a MindShifter to do work on this week. And as a tool, for me, it tends to be quite an ally, because more often than not, when I do a MindShifter, it goes places I had never imagined, and it's not that it lines up things. Are we building something?
Well, I don't know. There is some background noise, isn't there?
No, there's somebody building something. Building brain cells with a hammer.
It's only you three on. It's one of you three.
So is it Terry?
Yeah. Hey, sorry about that. I thought I was muted again. Okay. Mute me out if you would, please. You're still listening.
All right.
Mute your phone, Terry.
Okay, I'm going to mute Terry.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Well, what I was saying is that when I do a MindShifter, the purpose is to stir up the material in my unconscious mind by adding energy to it until it vibrates at a higher frequency and it bursts through the veil between the subconscious and the unconscious, and then it actually gets into my conscious awareness. And when that happens, I don't usually have memories of things I never knew before. Everything that comes out in my MindShifters so far to date have been things that I've always known and I've always remembered. But the value is that they connect in ways I had never imagined. So that learning how to skate with my uncle when I was 10 or 12 years old is connected to some struggle in my life today in a way I'd never imagined. But doing the MindShifter process stirs up that material and brings it out and starts to show me connections that are quite helpful in either just letting it go or then picking up a reality management worksheet to work through where I might still be stuck on it.
So, Tim, would you be willing to kind of give the group an outline of how to do the MindShifter? I think you've given a good illustration of what the purpose of it is. How does a person go about doing the MindShifter? And tell us how it's done.
All right. Well, Dr. Ryce has made available on the website a MindShifter worksheet, which is a list of 39 statements grouped into 3 groups of 13. And simply, a MindShifter can be any positive statement you come up with that may resonate some negative response from you. So he says in one of his lectures, a favorite one that he creates, which is not on his list from the MindShifters sheet, but if anybody has trouble with money, he suggests that they use the statement, I always make twice as much money as I can spend. So now I have a statement to work on with a MindShifter, and I take a piece of paper, a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I draw a line right down the middle vertically. And then I block out an hour or more of time that I'm going to give myself to do this exercise, and I write my MindShifter statement. In this example, it would be, I always earn twice as much money as I can spend. And I write that on the left-hand side, and then I just allow myself to start writing whatever comes to mind on the right-hand column. And I write for as long as I can until I feel like there's nothing else to say, and then I go back to the left-hand column and I write the very same MindShifter again. I always earn twice as much money as I can spend. And I let myself write again. In this way, every time I make the positive statement, it sets up a frequency that vibrates into my unconscious, and it adds energy to any hidden thought, emotion, or belief within my unconscious that might want to fight against that positive statement. And if it's in my unconscious, by definition, I'm not aware of it. And I can't work at fixing or dismantling something that I'm not aware of. So as it comes up and I write it on the right-hand side, I might have emotion come with it. I might have curiosity come with it. I might have boredom come with it. But the point of the exercise is to just keep to that hour time that I gave myself to write and keep writing on the right-hand side until I feel there's nothing else to write, and then repeat on the next sheet of paper or a little bit farther down the column, write the positive statement of the word shifter, of the MindShifter, and then let myself free associate to it again. Just write whatever comes to my mind.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that came to my mind as you were talking about that, with a good illustration that Michael uses, is that it means something that I'm just not conscious of, or to bring it up. And the idea of the wool sweater, when he talks about if you put a wool sweater on, then how do you feel? You know, and it's itchy, and the itch goes away after about 5 or 10 minutes, or does it really go away until you take it off about 6 hours later, and you go, oh, gee whiz. Well, the mind just kept that itch. It dissociated from what it was going on with it. And much is what the MindShifter is about, is what I hear you talking about, Tim, is to bring those things to the conscious level. As I look at them, and a good idea is to always be doing your connected breathing when you're doing that you're able to let go of those things just almost instantly with it. One of the things, just doesn't take a lot of time to do the healing work. It does take some effort to put things in motion with that, and the MindShifter is I agree with you, Tim, one of the best tools that's out there. It is interesting, isn't it, because we started out this conversation about all of the above, and as you were talking about that, it's like, oh, yeah. Now, my commitment is that I do a MindShifter every day, just to let you know, Tim. My MindShifters are sometimes less than an hour. I may do a MindShifter just on, take one page and just do it that. And I've been doing it for a while, though, and so I can sometimes just shift right then and there after writing 2 or 3 times, see what my blocks are, and as you said, do a forgiveness worksheet with it, and or just breathe. And again, this is the development. This is the purpose of the work, is to develop the skills and the ability to be able to do that, just like with the building. So, did anyone have any nice insights, any shifts the other night when you guys did this as a group?
Well, in our group, we didn't do the writing. We just assigned, at the end of the group, we decided to choose them so we can do our writing this week and come back with our results next week.
Oh, great. Well, that would be wonderful if you will, on Wednesday next week when Michael's back on here or whoever is going to be on, that you give us a little update with the group and see what it is that they have made the shifts, what shifts that they've made with that. Because it is important that we hear these things, for, quote, the mind wants to figure it out. It will do what it is that it's instructed to do, and especially when it can see some value from that. So if you would be so kind, that would be a wonderful thing to hear back on next Wednesday.
Well, I will try to do that. One of the things that I wanted to add is that when I work with people in therapy, I tell them in their first session that it's my assumption that they're not sick, they're not crazy, they're not stupid, they're not lazy, and they don't enjoy pain.
Mm-hmm.
And because I start with that assumption, I'm willing to be proven wrong. You know, some people do have very serious problems, but I begin with the assumption that they don't have those problems. And then what that means is that everything they do in their life fits into one of two categories. It either fits in category A or category B. In category A, everything they do is related to a logical goal they want to achieve and the logical steps they can see need to take place in order to reach that goal. Let's say I want to lose weight so I can fit into my bikini this summer, and so I have a series of logical steps. I'm going to start walking every day. I'm going to not eat any sweets. I'm going to eat only fruits or vegetables after dinner if I need a snack. So those are my logical steps. And in category A, everything I do will either be right in line with those or compatible with those goals and those steps. In category B, in any moment, out of all of the options I see before me, they're all painful. They are all in some way or another going to disrupt my logical progress toward my goal or cause me pain. And in that instant, I will always choose the one that's least painful. Now, if I can't see how that would help me reach my goal or how it's blocking me from my goal, all that means is that the motivation, the reasons for doing it, are coming from my unconscious. Mm-hmm. It's the unconscious pain, it's the unconscious belief, it's the unconscious resonant frequency which is strongest within my energy field, which will always direct my behavior. Mm-hmm. And Michael, with the MindShifter and the Reality Management Worksheet and the 3 earliest memories of conflict and the Codependence to Interdependence Worksheet and the Goal Canceling and the Goal Setting Worksheet, all of these tools help me uncover the unconscious beliefs and motivations that always leave me in category B behavior, where I'm going to be choosing the lesser of all the painful situations, even though they're going to derail me from my logical goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like this work. It's always helping me uncover parts of my mind that are sabotaging me in one way or another.
Yes, and of course that's what a lot of folks, when they're going to do this worksheet for the very first time, then to the mind it doesn't make sense, because what we want to do is to cancel the goal. Well, wait a minute, why do I cancel the goal? Well, if there's any hostility or fear, sadness, grief, disappointment, irritation based out of that goal, then I need to let go of that energy so that I create it coming from, as you're referring to, the things that are positive, the things that are supporting me in that. So the worksheet is just about that. It's about letting go of the energies that are attached to that. So, good.
And the other thing I tell people, just to add to what you just said, is every time I set a goal, especially if it's for somebody else, but even for myself, what I'm doing is focusing my energy outside of myself, and either in my conscious mind or outside of myself. And the whole point is, if I'm at the point of doing a worksheet, it's because I'm uncomfortable at some level. I'm in some kind of physical or emotional or psychological pain. Where is my pain coming from? It's from inside me. Well, if the cause of my pain is inside me, and I'm looking out in the backyard, or I'm looking at Sally or Bob, I'm never going to find the cause of my pain. So the other valuable reason to cancel the goal is it creates a window, an opening for me to direct my focus interiorly into my unconscious and to ask for help in seeing the inner, deeper, hidden, and projected parts of my mind, because that's where my pain comes from, always.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a memory. And memories are just that. They're just memories. There's nothing real with it. It is just a memory. And one of the points that you made at the very beginning of it, Tim, and I agree with you 100%, is that there's nothing wrong with anyone. There really isn't anything to fix about anyone. Our true essence is what it is that we want to get in touch with, that true essence of love. That's who it is that we are. When we're in touch with that, everything else gets dissolved. That's the whole purpose of it, is to hold the space of love. When we hold the space of love, then all the other things that have surfaced, they just disappear. There's nothing to it. And so I invite people to do that. That's the whole reason for doing this work, is to get in touch with that true essence of who it is that we are. You know, we were talking about the other day about Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. And I told you I was rereading it again. I've read it several times. And there's something in it that I thought, wow, you know what? I want to read this, because this is what he wrote in his book. A thought transfixed me. For the first time in my life, I saw the truth as it is set into song by many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of man is through love and in love. Now, this man had that insight while he had everything around him, as far as the outside world, of giving a projection of all of this dismay, everything that was going on, and for him to have that insight. And he held that insight, and if you want to read his story and everything, that how he survived, and not only did he survive, how he really took it to a new level. There's another piece in there that I thought was just amazing, because it fits right in. I'm going to invite Michael to take and put it into his work, because there's so many things that when Michael holds up the marker and says, "What is it that you see?" And he was telling about that after he had been back to living a quote normal life, and he says that it took him a while, that somebody showed him an illustration from a magazine with photos of prisoners lying covered on their bunks and staring dully at visitors. And they made the statement, "Isn't this terrible? The dreadful, starving faces, everything about it." And he said, "Why?" I asked, for I genuinely did not understand. For he goes on to say that what the people that were looking at that picture resonated in them, all of these poor, starving people. And what it resonated for Viktor Frankl, who was in that situation, was that a time when they were resting, that they were off of work, that they had that it was a recovery time. So now here's a picture of these folks looking at it, and what it resonated in them was some people looking at it was this despair, and this person that was actually in that situation said, oh, no, that wasn't it. No, that was that was a welcome time. So it's interesting of what the mind interprets what it is that's going on. And that's just what it is. It's just an interpretation, and it is a memory. It's a memory for people to resonate something that the mind has created that said, this is the way that it is. And so you want to change your reality, then there's a wonderful worksheet called the Reality Management, Empowering True Forgiveness. Reality is the perceptual output of the mind, and forgiveness is a tool for changing your reality of whatever it is that it means for you. When you let go of the reality that you hold that has hostility and fear around it, then you get to experience your true essence of who it is that you are, which is what I agree with you, Tim, that everyone, there's nothing wrong with anyone. It's just even the idea of holding that there's something wrong with me, that I have to change something about me. No, all I have to do is to let go of, to cancel, to forgive anything that's unlike me. You know, the great sculpture by Michelangelo, the sculpture of David, they say that it was carved from a flawed piece of marble. And they asked him, how did you carve such a magnificent piece? And he said, I just looked at everything that it was and removed everything that it wasn't. I just took away all of the flawed pieces, all of the things that were interpreted as flaws, and removed them, and this is what I had. So it is with us. When we remove all of the things that we've been taught, that we've taught ourselves, and that we're bought into this idea that there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with any of us. We're all on this path. We're all doing the best that we can, and it is our work for us to remove those things versus having someone else do something so that we don't have to look at what it is that we've taken on as a flaw and a belief. It's not true. Just because that someone believes something doesn't make it true. Just because that I believe something that goes on in my mind doesn't make it the truth. The truth is what you said, Tim, that everyone is this incredible, innocent, beautiful. Just as Michael said, if you ever held a newborn baby within 24, 48 hours, what's the essence of that? That's all of us. That's what we've all come in here to be. And I support everyone in doing that. And I'm not sure how much time we have. I'll just take a look at it. So, go ahead.
There's actually a comment in the chat room. Patrick commented about 15 minutes ago. That was an awesome explanation of MindShifters. Thanks, guys.
Oh, did you get that, Tim?
Yes, thank you.
So that's what is wonderful about doing this work is that now here's Patrick, who's been to intensive, he's been to Heartland, he's been doing his work, and I know he's been diligently and consistently doing his work for the last couple of years, and now he got yet even another piece. He's building the brain cells, and building the brain cells is about putting information in so that we can then have a different perception of what it is that's going on in our mind versus in actuality. So very nice. Good. So if there's any questions or comments or thoughts, the number is 646-200-4169. I'm getting this disc jockey thing down a little better. Keep repeating the numbers. So if anyone has any thoughts or questions, comments, anything, you have Dr. Tim Hayes from Chicago on, and my name is David Hayes, and I'm at Heartland, and we'll be glad to make any answer any questions that are out there. And I was just thinking about the work that Michael is doing and what he's going to be doing next, and we do have a program going on this summer for anyone that's interested in coming to the intensive here at Heartland. There are 9-day modules. We'll be doing a 65-day intensive this summer. If you're interested, if you'd like to go to our website at www.whyagain.com, you can download the information about it. And if you're interested, just give us a call. It's an environment that's out in the Ozarks. of Missouri, and we are out in the Ozarks, and it is absolutely fabulous. You know, one of the benefits that I get from being here is that all of the distractions that my mind would be triggered and firing off in my brains of traffic and noise and congestion and radios and TVs and all of that, you know, it's just to me, it's just a distraction for my mind. And when we're here, well, then you can let go of all of that. You can let go of all of the things that have stimulated you, and then you can really tap into that true essence of who it is that you are. So if you're interested in coming and spending some time here, we do have some work support programs as well. If finances are a challenge for you at this time, so go to the website and check it out and see if you're interested.
David, I have a question here for you.
Okay.
Somebody's saying, where do you draw the line between reality and actuality after you've worked through your trigger? Is that where you start boundaries?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Amy. Thank you, whoever did that question. I remember that one of the things that in my early recovery and doing my work, and I've been doing this for 25 years or more, that there was this thing about setting boundaries. And what I've come to look at about setting boundaries is that a boundary in its definition itself is to keep something out or to keep me in. So I'm like protecting myself. And what I've experienced, what my experience is that once that I've released any of the fear or hostility that's within me, there is no boundary. I'm open and receptive to whatever it is that's out there. The boundaries are only barriers that I've put up in my mind. Now, there are certain standards, what I refer to as standards of what it is that I hold and principles that I hold within myself and with other people. And it's there, rather than a boundary, though, it's a principle. It's a standard that, you know, it's okay with me that you talk that way. It's not okay for you to talk that way around me. Now, then I need to, if I'm coming from the space of love, and just using this as an example, then if I express to that person and take responsibility and do it coming from the space of love, then that person will either choose to shift or change or to be part of that or not. And there may be times that then that's one of the cases that I go, well, you know, that's okay for you to do. It's not okay for me to do. Michael uses the analogy of a person that calls up and says, you know, I'm thinking about robbing a bank this weekend, and I want you to, want to know if you want to be part of that. And he says, no, that may be the best thing for you to do. That's not where I'm at, and so that's not for me. And that's putting a standard up. So boundaries and it's something that I invite you to take a look at, and you might do some worksheets around that. What's the, a mind shifter that you might do is it's safe and healing for me to be without boundaries. It's safe and healing. Now, notice that you would put that on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, well, then you might put up, oh, hell no, there's no way. Then you go back and you write another mind shifter. It's safe and healing for me to be without boundaries. It's safe and healing for me to be without boundaries. I'm open and receptive. And then write down whatever it is that comes up. So, and we intuitively know that whenever that something has come up, the boundaries are only about what it is that people trigger in me. Most of the time, I think that what our lives have been set up, that we set boundaries up. That, I'm not going to be around this person because they bring this stuff up in me. I'm going to put this boundary up here. And people build themselves in this box, and then they're stuck with it.
David?
Yep.
If I can add.
Please do.
The question was, where do you draw the line between reality and actuality? And my understanding of Michael's work is that there is no line between reality and actuality. For Michael, these two words have very different definitions. Actuality is what's happening in the world outside of the human mind. And reality is my construction that gets created within my mind based on what's been resonated from my brain cells and my past experiences and my judgments. So, in the first place, those are two very different things. And if I understand this work correctly, Michael has discovered from the ancient teachings that the only time I have even a chance to perceive actuality accurately is when I'm holding the condition of total perfect love within my mind, that both the filter over my intentions is set to love and the filter over my perceptions is set to love. So as far as the question goes, I wanted to make that distinction because it's not about what's real and what's not real. To me, what occurs in my mind seems every bit as real as the desk sitting in front of me. As a matter of fact, it can be even more real. Illusion has a very powerful effect within a world of illusion. The second point I wanted to make is I agree very much with what you're saying. For years in my work with people, I've said, let's talk about boundaries because this is a very important concept. And I think you'll understand that I've used the word boundaries essentially meaning essentially what you are saying when you say standards. And what I tell people is this: boundaries are everything that I say and do to educate people around me about what I think is acceptable and not acceptable. And most of the time people like that. They go, yeah, that's a great idea. The part they don't like is that in actuality, everything I say and do educates people around me about what I think is acceptable and not acceptable. So I'm actually setting my standards, or to use David's words, educating people about my standards all day, every day. Not just when I say, oh, I'm going to do this action to set a standard for them or to set a limit with them or to set a boundary or let them know what I think is acceptable. So all of my actions, all of my reactions broadcast to the world what I think is acceptable and not acceptable. I see we're getting real close on time, so I'll let you take it and wrap it up, David.
Thank you so much, Tim. Yeah, we could go on with that one for a little while. And if someone has some comments, and the person that's in the chat room, if you would like to further that with them, we can discuss that again tomorrow. And I like what it is that you had to say, Tim, about that, in that it is my realities and my actualities are totally different, and we are always modeling that. How much time do we have, Amy?
About 60 seconds.
Oh, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Tim and Amy and Terry and Patrick and the callers and the people in the chat room for your willingness to ask the questions, to delve into finding out, well, maybe this has a different meaning with that. So if you would like to, please go to our website at www.whyagain.com and download the book free if you'd like. If you're interested in playing Building the Brain Cells or coming to an intensive or attending one of the free workshops, please let us know. And just do your work. Remember, when you do your work, you have a new experience. That is building the brain cells, that is creating a different actuality out there from your reality, from whatever it is that's going on. Thank you once again, Amy, and blessings to everyone. May you hold the space that you really are, this true essence of love.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. It was very enjoyable.